All happening. Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to what day is it? It's Monday night. I should be used to that because we usually do the Tidecast Monday nights. AFL Chat. I'm still running with that same name from the last couple of weeks, but if anyone thinks of a better name, feel free to send it through. So just a nice little talk show for about 30 minutes. We talk about all things AFL. We'll try and cover a few different clubs and a few different hot topics and see how we go. So make sure anyone who is listening across Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok, make sure you send through your comments as well. The TikTok ones won't be able to pop up on the screen, but we will be able to do the other ones on screen. But Grock, how are you, mate? What's going on?
Yeah, no, it's not too bad, mate. Just as I mentioned off air, I've literally just woken up like 25 minutes ago from a nap after work. It was a long day and didn't really sleep all that well last night. 45 minutes of sleep just, done me in. But thankfully today at work was very, very cruisy. But yeah, I just felt passed out as soon as I got home and my head hit the pillow.
Yeah, like I was saying, there's nothing worse than those nights where you just can't switch off. It is shit house. Dan, how are you, mate? Sarge, how are you? Forrest, what's going on? Thank you for stopping by. Much appreciated. But hopefully, the worst part is, though, you've woken up not long ago. It's like, how will you go then getting back through tonight?
Oh, I'll fall asleep easy as tonight.
Yeah, okay.
With how tired I was, I'll have no issue tonight, I reckon.
Very good. All right, before we get stuck into the footy stuff, post this, we will be going straight into some pro club streams as well. We are in the middle of playoffs. We're 3-1. I think we had a full team on last night, a full 11, which was crazy. So absolute scenes last night. We're doing okay, so make sure you hang around for that. But yeah, on the back of the show a couple of weeks ago, we thought we'd do another one as a few other topics have crept up. 40 sleeps to go, Jones Jason. There we go. 40, is that all? 40 sleeps to go. How are you, Nick? The first one I'll let you lead the way on. It's in relation to the new rules the AFL have brought in regards to the media and the players' obligations to the media, which was interestingly on the back of a topic we spoke about in the first show.
Yeah, I think this is absolute horseshit with the player access. What is it up to? Is it the first hour?
I think so. Something like that. Yeah. Or 40 minutes, 45, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with the access, they already have decent enough access these days, but wanting every player to be available for media commitments, up to an hour before a game and up to an hour afterwards, it's currently too much media, especially for a media that has no accountability for any stories that they run.
Exactly.
Like, there's no accountability for them, but they expect players to front up after they've been bashed pillar to post for 12, 18 months. I mean, we go back to it, but you look at Dusty this whole time, issues with his old man, his off-field issues. Is he leaving? Is he staying? Is he leaving? Is he staying? Every post season, there's he's on his way out the door to Gold Coast, or there's this and that. If Dusty's sitting there, and he hates the media at the best of times, but if they're continually posting the story about him once a week, like as the club said, and I'm glad the club actually made a joke about this. I'm not sure if you saw the tweet, but the Tigers are running a goal kicking competition, and
I entered that. Yeah, I did enter that.
Yeah, but the first prize is $10,000, and the club is like, something along the lines of, we shouldn't be running this comp, we should be putting it towards Dusty's first media commitment fine. Something along those lines. The club is taking the piss out of it as well.
Isn't the caveat to this media thing that if a player is injured or needs treatment, they are relieved from their media duty? So there's going to be a shitload of players who are just all of a sudden pulling up sore post-game and need to get some ice on the hamstrings and a rub down. That's going to be their loophole. That's the way out of it. I think they've left it open easily enough for players who really don't want to do it to not do it. But like you said, the media, and like we said on the first show, the media have zero respect for the players of the comp, and they're trying to compare themselves to the NFL media who get great access, but they've got a great relationship with the players because they actually treat them with an ounce of respect and they have a bit of banter, and it works both ways. Whereas the media here are just shithouse, and there's, like you said, no accountability. So they just want their cake and they want to be able to eat it too. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Like I look at this and it doesn't make sense for me unless the media start paying more for the media rights commitments, obviously, if the players are having more work to be done, surely they should be being paid more from their media commitments than what they are now, for one.
Yeah.
But two, why have more access to the media when things like having the umpires? Let's bring the umpires in for 30 minutes after the match and go over some of the decisions and have them explain themselves. Let's have
100%.
the AFL CEO. Let's have him front up to a room full of reporters and even fans answering some of the questions that they want. Hold them accountable. Like the AFL, I think, is just trying to tinker with things that aren't too broken. They're trying to appease a small minority of people when it's not them that actually are the custodians of the game, as what Gill would call it.
Good call, Andrew, as well. I agree. I think Phil Davis does do very well. He's a very, I don't know, just a classy operator, the way he sort of speaks and analyzes things. And there are a few of them out there. Don't get me wrong. It's not a shot at all media, but I think the main ones in this boat are the ones that Jones Racing pointed out. You got Kane Corns, Jenkins, Cooney, etc. There's just a plethora like Barrett, Hutchie, who just take the piss and just write crap story after crap story and just throw enough darts. And now they want more access. And they wonder why players are just going to give robotic answers that no one's going to care about. No one's going to learn anything from it because they're that well media drilled. It's not funny. I just don't think it serves a purpose, to be honest. But
we should start a thread on Big Footy or wherever and just keep a tally of how many times journos get pied and which of them get pied. I guaranteed Sam McClure will probably be number one.
He's going to cop an absolute pasting from people, especially from people of Dusty Reece sides. Yeah. My goodness. All right, next one we've got is a bit of a two-pronged one. So obviously we caught wind, or it's come out now, that Silvani obviously did his knee for Carlton, which is shithouse news, and obviously along the same line as Bailey Smith with the Dogs. No one likes to see injuries of this magnitude any time of the year, let alone pre-season. So thoughts go out to Silvani and Bailey Smith. But it kind of then prompted the question, is there starting to become more evidence or more weight to go towards a mid-season draft? I know they've got the mid-season rookie pick and things like that they can obviously replace players with. But in terms of a pure trade where clubs can actually target specific needs if they've lost players for extended periods of time, like how we lost Tom Lynch for God knows how long, we could have actually traded in a big key forward to help us through that back half of the year. At the risk of it turning a bit more Americanized, I know people don't like that, but does that add more weight to the consideration of a trade period?
I know the AFL were considering it very, very highly a couple of years ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the next couple of seasons, they have introduced some sort of player movement in between, mid-season. I'm also of the opinion that it should be more like the English football system where you can actually loan list players as well.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Because you've got players who often leave clubs for greater opportunities. Like we look at Callum Coleman-Jones. Like for Richmond, we could have loan listed him to a club that needed a forward or a ruckman, someone like, an Essendon or a Hawthorn or somewhere like that for a couple of years to see if he actually develops and then, get him back. Things like that. I think that would make it a lot easier for a lot of players to actually start playing AFL football as well, as opposed to that. But I'm not too sure how that would work in regards to what clubs give up. That's the only tricky thing. But I definitely agree with Jones Racing. Rather than mid-trading thing, VFL list as a replacement for the duration of the injury. You could even go further and have to come from your VFL aligned list if you have one. If not, you have the pick. That way you can actually manage things. But I do think, I do think we'll get that trade as well. But I also think at that point, clubs will start holding players a little bit higher in value than what they probably should. Based on if we know you need this player, we want you to pay him such and such and give up
premium.
So,
and you don't want to, and it's hard at the same time. As much as I think it will happen, you don't want to drag on like a 2-week fiasco like the normal trade period is. Just 1 week, short and sharp. If it's a universal bye week, let's say, where everyone's got the week off and that's where you get your shit done, and then reload for the second half of the season. Yeah, boy, on TikTok, it's a good idea. A lot of bad things can happen halfway through the year as well. Very true. Very true. And that's maybe where, to Jones Racing's point, that maybe if we establish a fully fledged AFL reserves, we want to call it that, where it encompasses Sandful, Waffle, whatever, that you can sign one of those reserve players onto your list if someone's on the long-term injury list as a, to cover your spot for the rest of the year. And that's another way to get more exposure to talented kids as well, and the older players too. So that might be another option too. So I think it will end up going that way. We'll take a question off the cuff from Fred. How will the Blues go this year without Jack Silvani? What do you reckon, Grock? How do you reckon they'll go?
I still think they'll be decent. I think with Silvani in 2023, he was a bit of a swingman, played down back, played down forward. I'm not too sure how much of a loss he'll actually be. Honestly, like the games that he was very good, but there were games where he was virtually invisible and had no influence on the game. So I think the Blues are at the stage now where they've at least got some depth to cover for him. It may not be as strong, but when you've got players coming through, I mean, you've still got Cripps, you've got Curnow, you've got Mackay, you've got, Wiedering, all of these players. I think the Blues will be fine. They'll definitely play finals again. They'll definitely push for a prelim.
I agree. I think Silvani, maybe not through any fault of his own, was kind of in a little bit of no man's land with what position was best for him. And the fact that we saw him playing ruck at various stages, I know that other clubs have tried it with undersized players, but to me, that's just a sign of, well, we don't know where your best football is, so we're just going to roll the dice here. And that's dangerous for him, number one. But I think when he's playing that kind of role, it just feels like there isn't a permanent spot for him because of those players that you mentioned. Before they developed, though, he was serving a good purpose as a forward and doing okay. But yeah, now you've got Curnow, Mackay. You're not dislodging one of those for him, that's for sure. So I still think, I agree. I think they're going to be fine and play finals football. I don't think that him not playing is going to have too big of an impact. Without being disrespectful to him, I just think they've got him covered.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if we've got any St Kilda fans in the chat, but St Kilda's been an interesting one. I'm kind of feeling like they're starting to self-implode a little bit, and maybe it's just bubbling away. It may not come to fully fledged until much further down the track. But I want to know, do we think, is Ross Lyon causing a bit of a divide? Because things just don't seem right there. Obviously, Simon Lethalane has pulled the pin and has left this week. But when you dig a bit deeper, here are some key departures since Ross Lyon arrived. So this is since December 2022. James Gallagher was a list boss, gone January 2023. Jeff Walsh was gone about 4 months in. In March, David Rath, footy boss, head of coaching, gone. In May, Nick Walsh, fitness boss, gone. September, Ben Robbins, psychologist, gone. October, Brett Frinkle, Mike O'Donnell, gone. November, Hal Marsden. December, Chris Tosi. Apologies if I say that incorrectly. Jared Ruffhead as a recruiter, gone. And then Simon Lethalane. So that I know there's list turnovers in any organisation, but that's more than a list turnover in that time frame. There's something more to it. That is huge.
Yeah, in 13 months, you've had, double figures people leaving.
10.
Yeah.
10 people. Yeah, 10 people leaving. That should not happen.
No, nearly one a month. That's not aesthetically a great thing to see for anyone who's potentially interested in working there. Like, that's just that goes beyond, general staff movement and things like that. It's really, that's an exodus. That's like Brisbane with their players, 10 years ago. There's obviously something wrong there, and it could be, they're trying to refresh everything. Obviously, it hasn't worked out for them since, 2011, obviously, or whatever, late 2000s. They haven't been successful. But at the same time, we look at Ross Lyon and the way that he left St Kilda in the first place. We saw how Ross Lyon was at Fremantle. He has not changed as a person.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how he would have gone returning to St Kilda with little remorse about how it went down or anything like that. We know that he's got an ego. He's admitted it. So I'm not sure. I think it was probably just a personality clash, and people just didn't really want to be there. And yeah, I do think he's caused a bit of a division. He's been known to be a bit of a my way or the highway type person, and I suppose you need an element of that to be successful. But at the same time, there's a time and a place to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Ross is the greatest at working with people around him. I think he can be very insular at times. So,
and what's interesting is a lot of these, when these happen, there's a lot of other external articles coming out saying, "Oh, Ross wasn't a factor in this." Like getting on the front foot as if it's assumed that he was. It's like, well, hang on. If everyone's assuming that he was a factor for a lot of these reasons, is it where there's smoke, there's fire? And then St Kilda as a club, I don't know whether they're overdoing this a little bit, but they're then going to the extent of deliberately putting out good positive content, of positive Ross vibes as a bit of a personal person, having a laugh at the players and the other club staff and things like that. So it's like, I don't want to say they're hiding something, but are they trying to portray him in a certain light because of all these things that are happening to cover some stuff up? I don't know, but it kind of feels like this could tear a club apart. Like I know you get people in to replace those that left, but it's more what's the root of the problem.
Yeah, and there's an old saying, perception is reality, and if we're perceiving things to be a certain way at that club, I can guarantee you where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. Yeah, boy on TikTok says, I think Ross Lyon is not the right coach for St Kilda because his strategy is still stuck from 2013. And that's always the sticking point with bringing coaches back in after that long out of the game. Like I actually really enjoyed his work in the media. I thought he was very insightful and was quite good at it. But you have to wonder, have they been able to evolve their own game plan to catch up to modern footy, or is it still? I know you got to rely on assistance for that as well, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure he's up to where he needs to be. It could be a crunch year for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Dimmer. Dimmer's game plan at the Tigers the last 2 or 3 years was outdated, given the changes to, obviously the 666 rule, the stand rule, all of these things really hampered his game plan, and he was still in the game. He was there as it was transitioning. Ross wasn't. So he had, I think he was too long out of the game. I don't think he'll be successful.
And Brados, fair point that they didn't make finals. I think that was more to do with their list and almost like a honeymoon period. He was getting the most out of them, but I think the difference between their best and worst, like a lot of clubs, is quite vast. And with all of these shenanigans going on with people leaving left, right, and centre, I'm just questioning the stability of the club now for the upcoming seasons. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. But they've definitely got some talented players on their list. But yeah, I'm just not sure how they're going to push forward as a club.
Yeah, I mean, they made finals, but it was similar to the Bulldogs when they won the 2016 flag. They were a young side, but it was on the back of everyone having career best seasons. They're not going to be able to sustain that and keep having a career best season year after year after year. So
Mason Wood.
Yeah.
Mason, I know we can't rely on all things Supercoach, but he's like 490,000 on Supercoach. Like, what the hell is happening? He only ever had one good game a year for the Kangaroos, and that was against us.
Yep.
He was shooting lights out, not going to lie. He was playing really well for St Kilda last year. He was doing good. I hope you mean both of us there, Chunky. All right. Now, good call there, Fred, because we do have our bottom four predictions coming up now, which is going to be interesting. And you go first, Grock. Who have you gone for your bottom four for this year?
I've gone West Coast. I think that's pretty much a given.
For last year, starting from 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
West Coast. 17th is tough. I mean, there's a few clubs around there. I think Hawthorn might be 17th. I think they'll probably have a bit of a down year. I'm not sold on them this year whatsoever. That comment.
Okay.
I think, I mean, if we have a look at it, like, there's so many that it could be. Kangaroos, I think, are another one. I reckon they'll finish 15th. And it could be that 15th spot could be anywhere from someone like the St Kilda. I think St Kilda or Fremantle are probably the two that are be fighting for that.
Finding it out.
Yeah.
Hawks are relying on Troll. No, they got Mitch Lewis. I actually think the Hawks will go okay this year. I'm not saying they'll play finals, but I know this is a big if. But if they can produce the same football that they played against Collingwood in the latter half of last year, that was unbelievable. And they'll win more games than they lose if they can do that often enough. But that's obviously the $1 million question. Oh yeah, we're death riding Freo, I think, aren't we? I've got 15th for St Kilda because of my implosion theory, but they do have the talent to play a lot better and finish a lot higher. But I'm just not sure. Like if they cop a few losses early, the pressure could mount. I haven't looked at who they've got, to be fair, but I've got them 15th. 16th, I've got Fremantle. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure where they're going to keep. Luke Jackson's obviously a gun. Nat 5 seems to be doing okay at training, but we don't know how he's going to hold up throughout the year. But I just think they're kind of going to be going through a phase of getting their next list together to climb back up. But I don't think this year will be theirs. 17th, I've got West Coast. I mean, that's kind of just off the back of last year. They kind of fell off a cliff. They showed some signs every now and then, but it's weird because if they can get their shit together, their home ground advantage is a big advantage to have, and they could jag a few more wins. But I'm not sure that they're going to tick a lot of boxes. And I've got Kangaroos 18th, but it could quite possibly swap between Kangaroos and West Coast. Kangaroos have got some good young players. There's been a little bit of instability with Clarko being in and out for his health reasons. So they still could be in a bit of a transitional phase of learning his game style and getting that down pat. So I'm not sure they'll be good enough to get out of that bottom 4 bracket, but I think the following year they might actually surprise a few people. Enzo's got Essendon bottom 4. Yeah, who else do people think will finish bottom 4? Sarge's got Geelong, Enzo, Essendon. I know, Andrew, a lot of people do have us finishing bottom 4. Chunkies is Pies 18th, 17th Geelong, 16th Demons, 15th Blues. I know you're being a little bit facetious, Chunky, but Melbourne is actually another one that could self-implode and it could slide massively with a lot of the shit going on there. I'm not hearing a lot of good vibes from Goodwin and how he goes about things. So that's bottom 4 might be a little bit of a stretch for them, but they could possibly fall out of the 8 Grock.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what tumultuous off-season looked like as Richmond fans with the whole dimmer thing in the hub and how that destabilized us. So with the D's and this off-season, last off-season, I think there's been the last 2 or 3 off-seasons now where they've had some sort of controversy, and it annoys me that they haven't been bashed anywhere near or tarnished as much as what we were when we were breaking protocols and things like that.
Yeah.
People were blaming the culture. No one's really been laying the boots into the Demons to the point that they did with us. But yeah, I really can't see the D's maintaining their connection if things like this keep going. If they do, they'll have to make some serious changes, whether that be coaching, player list wise, getting rid of Oliver and a few other players like that. So I think the D's are now at a crossroads where they need to address various things in order to keep the club from imploding.
Can't help but feel they should have pulled the trigger on Clayton Oliver a year or 2 ago when his currency was way higher. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if there's been a return date earmarked for him, and obviously first and foremost, whatever the issue is, we hope he's okay. But that's going to destabilize the club massively. And the things you hear about, I suppose, the way he treats his teammates and things like that, I'm not sure it's going to ever be the same again. I know they've got other very, very good players in their midfield and all over the grounds, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Pies have a grand final hangover. We can only hope. Brados has said that if Geelong finish bottom 4, I'll cancel my 25 years of membership, because Sarge's theory is they're not getting any younger, which is true. But I mean, they've shown that they've been able to sustain a reasonable amount of success in terms of finishing on the ladder relatively high up for a long period of time. Last year, they obviously fell out after making the grand final, as did Sydney. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back.
Like Geelong, people who watch the Tigercast know they're my most hated side in the league, but I really can't see them finishing outside of the 8. I just think with the 7 or 8 home games they play at Cardinia Park, that's 7 wins guaranteed down there for them. They play that ground so well, and it takes teams playing extremely well to even beat them. So it's easier, and I maintain this in a lot of threads where, the Vic bias and Vic advantage things come up. But it's easier for mediocre clubs who have a genuine home ground advantage, Geelong, people like that. Even like you have a look at Port Adelaide when they weren't as good as what they are now. But it was easier for them to make finals than it was for genuine Melbourne clubs because they maybe have 3 at most genuine home ground advantages. So, yeah, with Geelong, I really can't see them slipping out of the 8. I just think they get a boost from that ground, and they only have to win another 4 or 5 throughout the year to really guarantee them playing finals. So
Hudson Walker on the TikTok said Bombers to win a final and come 6th. Now, they're one of those teams that their best can definitely play finals. They've got their second year under Scott. We need the streak to keep going, if I'm being honest. What are we at? Jones Racing, you'll know the answer because you messaged it to me quite a lot. With 7,000 and something days, we have to keep it going. But they've got some good players. They just have to get more games into the younger players. They're going to take the mantle off some of these older guys. But Fred wants to know, before we do this wheel spin, thoughts on Bevo replacing Longmuir as this season doesn't go to plan for Freo. I personally don't rate Bevo as a coach now, only because they obviously won the flag in, was it 16, I think it was, and they didn't really go on with it. And I think he's falling into similar, in my opinion, he's falling into similar light as Ross Lyon in terms of his people management skills are what's letting him down and is what causing the most issues, because I keep hearing a lot about Rowan Smith leaving and in the circumstances surrounding that. And I suppose the way that Bevo carries himself amongst staff in the playing group, I don't think is well received. So I don't actually think he would be the answer for Fremantle either. If Fremantle were to lose Longmuir, I would be going a young coach again, unless there was someone just exceptional in the market that you couldn't not have him.
100%. There, 7,086.
There we go. Thank you. I knew you would know that, Jones Racing. I knew you would know it.
With Bevo, I agree. I don't think he's that great of a coach. As I mentioned, 2016 was a bit of an anomaly in regards to how many players had breakout seasons. And of course, we can't forget the one-sided umpiring that they received in that final. I mean, we just have to look at that GW West game and the way that was adjudicated by the people on the ground. And you'd be hard-pressed to even say that the Dogs deserve to make the grand final based on that, with so many crucial decisions going against the Giants. So I think Bevo was lucky to get that flag. And I think he'll be very much like Ross Lyon, that he's probably not good enough to win anything on his own merits without things going right for him in and outside the club.
All right, we'll get on to the last one because we've got some pro club games to get stuck into. You're going to spin the wheel. We're going to go through 4 more clubs of rapid fire questions, which will be the finishing position, the breakout player, who needs to step up, and is their coach under pressure. So I'll let you get the wheel going.
Okay, first up we have Brisbane.
Oh, Brisbane finishing position will be top 4. I think I'll say 4th. Breakout player. Geez, they've got a lot of them, don't they? My God. Breakout player. I want to see. I know Cam Rayner's a good player. I want to see him go to new heights for a whole season. I want to see him maintain an elite standard of football for 18 games, because he could rip the competition apart if he could do that. Which player needs to step up? I would have said the barometer, but he's not there anymore, so I can't even use that. That's a bit disappointing. Who needs to step up? I'm going to say Hipwood, especially when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, like the pointy end of the season finals. if Hipwood actually put in half an effort in that final, they might have been half a chance to win that. Joe Danaher, to his credit, played his heart out and did really well. But Hipwood in the clinches and finals, he was no good, so he needs to lift there. Is their coach under pressure? I think he is a little bit, not to the point of being sacked, because I think they've made finals frequently enough that he's ticked enough boxes. But he's not. I still think there's a mental barrier with them to take the next step to win a grand final. They've got an amazing list, and they've probably botched a couple of opportunities already. But I don't think he's under pressure to get sacked. But I think, I think there could be some stress points if they don't at least make a prelim again.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, breakout player is either, I think it's a bit of a, I'll go the obvious one in Ashcroft. Obviously, he had that ACL this year, but in regards to going the unobvious ones, I think Kyle Oman is definitely one that could have an absolutely great year. He's been very, very good at VFL level for the Lions, so I definitely think that he could be like the main one that comes in and really helps him out. He's got speed. He's quick around the ball. So, yeah, I definitely think, Fletcher is another one, Colonel, that might have a very good year. Player who's under pressure would be, or who needs to step up. I think this is two-pronged for me, and this is Danaher and Dunkley. I think the two high-profile recruits. Joe's been okay at the Lions. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games. Same as Dunkley. For the price that they paid for what they gave up for the list position they're in, they need more output from both of those two players, especially Dunkley. Dunkley for what they gave up and where they're at with their list. Definitely he's the one that needs to really justify the hype of getting him and what they paid for him. So I think those two are it. Whether they're finishing position, I agree, top 4, maybe even top 2 if they continue dominating it. The Gabba like they have done over the past couple of years. Definitely, they should finish top 3. If they finish any lower than 3rd, they've choked a couple of games. I think they've thrown away some points that they probably shouldn't have done. And whether their coach is under pressure to perform in 2024, absolutely. Given how close that they've been, I do think they need to make a grand final this year to show some continued improvement. Obviously, with the way that they've built the list over the last couple of years, bringing again like Dunkley and players like that in, it's just a natural escalation of the club. They've been thereabouts the last few years, just haven't quite been able to take that last step. So I definitely think a grand final is Brisbane. Is the pass mark.
Is the pass mark. All right, who's next on the wheel?
Next, we have
big year for the Lions.
GWS.
Oh, GWS. Finishing position, I think they'll be somewhere between 5th and 8th. I reckon they're good enough to definitely play finals. Kingsley's done an amazing job with them. Breakout player. Well, given that I don't know what his injury status is, but given he re-signed, I'm going to say Cadman. I think he might hit the ground running, and it's going to be interesting to see how he goes, to be honest. So I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing the impact and the carnage that he creates. Which player needs to step up? Who would need to step up for the Giants? I'm not too sure we'd have to step up for the Giants. I'm not sure. I don't have a solid. I'd have to look through their list, to be honest. But they're actually, when they got their shit together in the second half of the year, they were actually a very well-rounded team, and actually were very hard to get through, and they scored really well themselves. So I'd have to go back and look at the list for that one. Is their coach under pressure to perform? I don't think so. I think he got enough credits in the bank after year 1. He got coach of the year as well, I'm pretty sure. It would take something monumental like finishing bottom 4 for questions to be asked, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Finishing position for me, I think they can go 4th. I really reckon that they'll jump up this year. I think they're good enough. They're getting better. They got better every week under Kingsley. I really think with the talent that they have, there's still a couple of holes on the list, mainly up forward. They need a bigger forward, but with their midfield, their back line, if Sam Taylor can stay fit and not get injured, he's definitely going to help them. I think they can finish anywhere between 4th and 7th. But realistically, I could see them pushing for a top 4 spot this year, which 2 years ago was nuts. Breakout player, Cadman is the main one, but I think Lee Collier, down back, I think he's primed for very much having a very breakout season this year. I think he'll definitely help out Taylor down back, so that's good. I forgot the other
Player
question.
needs to step up.
Player that needs to step up, Cornelio for me. He's been thereabouts. He's had his injury concerns. He managed to get through a few games last year with Tom Green and Toby Green, Josh Kelly. They all performed last year. Cornelio is the one that's the odd one out now, so I think he's the one that needs to step up, because if he can do what he did when he was their captain, before he got captain, really, if he can get back to that player who can hit the scoreboard and be that link up between midfield and forward, I think that'll really help. I think he's the main one. And Is Kingsley under pressure? Absolutely not. I mean, he overachieved last year based on where the list was at when he took over, which is, looking back, crazy to think how well he actually did. And if it's a natural progression again, yeah, absolutely no pressure.
My breakout player, sorry, just back to, I'm going Riccardi. I think he's got so much talent, but he just needs to become a lot more consistent, especially if Cadman's playing as well. So he's my play to improve. Who we got next on the wheel?
Next,
they're a good prospect though, the Giants.
The Kangaroos.
Finishing position, I've got bottom 4. I think potentially bottom 2. Breakout player, I mean, I'm not sure if he can break out any more than he has, but Sheasel is an absolute weapon, and I love watching him play. And I would love for him to take his game. I don't know how many more levels he's got, but yeah, he's going to be a superstar with the comp very, very shortly. Which player needs to step up? There's probably a lot of them, to be honest. I don't know if this is out of school to say Taron Thomas, because he's letting his club down immensely at the moment with his actions outside of football, because he is one of their better players, undoubtedly. So I think he needs to get his shit together, because, yeah, he's an important player for them. Is their coach under pressure? I don't think so. They've obviously gone balls deep with Clarkson for a reason. He's there for the long haul no matter what. He'll be given as many years as he needs. I don't think he's under any issue whatsoever.
Yeah, for me, breakout player Colby McKercher. I think that's absolute locked in. They're already raving about his performances at training already, saying that they can't believe just how composed and how skillful he actually is. So he's definitely going to play round 1. He'll play nearly every game this year. He'll be the one that really sets them off. Breakout player, I sort of agree with you in Taron Thomas. He owes the club a lot, not just for what he's done, but the fact that he's done it multiple times now, even when he's already been on notice for everything. He's definitely he's definitely the player that needs to really step up and earn back a little bit of trust and respect. Even not on field, it's just around the club. It doesn't
just
get
your shit together, just in general.
Yeah, he's under pressure the most out of anyone there. Finishing position, bottom 4, but it wouldn't surprise me to see them knock off a few clubs who aren't suspecting it, particularly towards the back end of the year. Yep. Or even early. I think that's where they'll either get their wins, is be early this year or towards the back end. So I could see them maybe finishing bottom 6, but I do think bottom 4 is where they're at. And Clarko, definitely not under pressure. The only pressure I think he'd be under is if, again, his health declines for what he's being paid. That might put a little bit of pressure on the board for the way they went about it, and maybe have them clarify the justification for signing him, knowing that he was maybe getting paid this amount of money for what he's being able to deliver so far. But him personally, for obligations, no.
No, I agree. And last stuff for the wheel. And just a reminder, guys, make sure you hang around because we're playing Pro Clubs playoffs straight after this. So for you gentlemen who are in the Pro Club team, get your EA fired up and ready to go because we'll get straight into it.
Now, we started off earlier talking about this St Kilda.
Oh, Jesus. Finishing position, I've got bottom 4 as a real chance. Breakout player for the Saints. I'll have to come back on that one. Which player needs to step up? I think there's a lot of players that they need to step up, but I don't want to say Josh Battle is a frustrating play for me to watch because I know how good he can be. And I think he's fallen victim to being played all over the park and not being able to settle in one position. So I'm kind of hoping he gets a dip at one spot, but I'd love to see him to step up because I fear he could be on the brink of no return. And is their coach under pressure? Higgins, that's a good one to step up as well. Is their coach under pressure? 100%. I reckon he's going to be under the pump if they self-implode and fall. If he keeps, obviously they made some good wins last year. If he keeps that up somehow, then he'll be okay. But if they fall and implode a little bit, I think he might be in trouble. And I agree to you. Josh Battle's good. I actually coached against him in his junior years, and he was a pain in the ass to coach against because he was so good. And yeah, he just played forward for a lot of his junior career in TAC Cup, and then he obviously is filling some holes down back as well. But let him settle, and I think he'll thrive. I just don't want to see him get booted for lack of opportunity or lack of stability.
Yeah, breakout player for me. I think it's either going to be Philippou or it's going to be Lance Collard. I think Collard, if he manages to get a game, is really going to light it up, and they'll. I think he'll really get Saints fans excited. One to keep an eye on who's already been exposed to AFL football in the Saints lineup is Liam Henry. I think he could, on a wing, be a very, very good prospect for them. So definitely keep an eye out for him. Player who needs to step up is two-pronged for me. It's Brad Hill is one. I think he really needs to be a bit more impactful with what he gets. I think he's getting the ball. He's not necessarily doing much with it. And Brad Crouch, he's had his injury concerns. His body hasn't really shown that it can handle a full workload, but I definitely think he's that missing piece for them in the midfield. When he's up and about, the Saints look so much better. So definitely those two, I think, are the ones that really need to step up. If they have very good seasons, I think the Saints will probably miss out on bottom 4. I think they'll win more games than we'd expect if those two are having a very good season. And is their coach under pressure? Ross? Yes, but not for on-field performances. I think it's everything going on at the club. There's definitely going to be some pressure surrounding him for that. I do think he's got probably until the end of next year. I think them making finals has sort of given him a bit of a leeway, but at the same time, if they regress and they don't make finals and they miss it by a long margin this year, then next year there's definitely going to be questions asked whether or not they pull 100%. The pin on Ross or he pulls the pin on the club. I think if they have an absolutely disastrous season this year, I don't think Ross will be at Saints in 2026.
All right, until deal, that's a fair call. King needs to step up as well. Yeah, he could boot shitloads more goals to be kicked straight, but the same could be said for a lot of other players as well. So, all right, that is a wrap for the AFL Chat show for tonight. Thank you, Grock, for jumping on. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and wherever else we are. Show some love to the episode, share it and like it and things like that. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm sure we'll be back in a couple of weeks, no doubt. We'll find some more topics to talk about. Appreciate everyone chipping in with some comments and questions as well. And make sure you hang around because we will jump over to some pro clubs now in the playoffs. We're 3-1, and hopefully we'll have 7 or 8 plus players on tonight and see if we can jag a few wins. Love your work, Grock. Thank you again, mate, as always.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you all very soon.